companies that are more sustainable can often be deemed more transparent and trustworthy. And that's what a lot of stakeholders want, especially when times get rough.
Welcome to the Voice of Visma podcast, where the heartbeat of our community comes to life. Join us as we chat with Visma leaders and colleagues, sharing their stories, industry insights, and valuable career lessons.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Voice of Visma. My name is Philip Scarampi. I'm Sustainability Manager for Visma Group, helping to ensure that Visma and our companies are leading in our sustainability efforts. Today we will be talking quite generally about sustainability, what it is, why it's so important, how we are working with it at Visma, and what we hope to achieve within sustainability at Visma in the coming years. And what better person to talk about all of this with than the head of sustainability at Visma, which is Robin Åkerberg. Welcome, Robin. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I wanted to start off. Maybe you could give just a short introduction about yourself. Where are you from? Who are you? And how did you, what was your journey here?
Yeah, sure. So Robin Åkerberg from Helsinki, Finland. I'm 31, soon to be 32 years old. And yeah, I have a little family, a wife, and an almost 2-year-old at home. And I have basically always been a big fan of nature and being in the outdoors. And I think that kind of is the background to why I also became head of sustainability eventually. We lived in Australia, in Sydney for 1 year when I was a child, and I loved the nature there and became this big bird nerd. Just as a 7-year-old, I learned probably 450 species of birds in Australia. And since then, I've always just loved nature. And I think just when I started studying, I have a background in business and finance, but I went on a bit of a gap year during my student years, traveling with my now wife. And I think that trip was a bit of an eye-opener in the sense that you could really see, we traveled to places where you could see the lack of infrastructure for waste management and basic things like that. Diving, I've been diving since I was 12, and just seeing in practice kind of the coral bleaching and things like that going on. And yeah, when I came back to Finland to continue my studies, we had it was a perfect timing because we have a great CSR course at the time at my university. And that was basically about why companies should do good and kind of that it makes sense from a business case. And I think that really opened my eyes a little bit because in a way, when I was younger, I always thought it would be enough that it's kind of it's the right thing to do. But the further I started as a student learning about finance and realized that money is what talks the business language, so to say. And that kind of then led me to have this interest of exploring how sustainability can actually influence on financial performance and risk. And that's what I eventually wrote my master's thesis on. I did a summer internship at Visma when I was, just before my graduation or the year before in 2018. And at that time, I didn't work with sustainability directly, but I did a management trainee program or joined that program the year after. And during that year, I just, from the start, expressed an interest to work with sustainability. And that kind of, led me to here. So,
because you've been head of sustainability now for how long?
Since 2020.
It's 2020.
Yeah.
So just about 5 years now of working, driving Visma's sustainability progress, basically. Yeah.
And it all started from a bottom up. So one of the companies in Finland actually they were interested in working with sustainability. It quite soon revealed itself that it makes sense to have someone on the group level. I had a trainee project on that, and yeah, then it became me.
Yeah.
So I've been leading that work since 2020.
Yeah. I think it's important that we, as we continue the discussion, we should perhaps, before we go into what Visma is doing within sustainability, we should perhaps take a step back and talk about what sustainability actually means. You mentioned a moment ago CSR, which is, I suppose it still exists today, but I think it's kind of given way to a more broader understanding of sustainability, at least within business. Could you say a bit about how would you, because there's many ways we could define it, but what definition of sustainability do you think is the most accurate?
Yeah, well, I think sustainability means different things to different people. Like you say, a lot of people might think about environmental topics when they hear the word sustainability, but really sustainability is, from a business perspective at least, just ensuring that the company is doing the right things from an environmental perspective, reducing environmental impacts, but also from the social perspective and kind of the social impact. So looking at diversity and equity inclusion topics, human rights, just overall business ethics, ensuring that we're not involved in corruption, and that we kind of follow best practices and are trustworthy in the markets.
Mm-hmm.
So sustainability takes that environmental, social, and governance. So ESG is often used synonymously with sustainability.
Yeah. And you touched on this a bit before, so in your exploration of, as you said, money talks, and sort of the role that sustainability can have in business. What have you concluded then? Why is sustainability relevant from a business perspective?
Yeah. Well, I think that was kind of a turning point for me that there actually is a clear business case for sustainability. So research shows that there's companies that have a strong sustainability performance actually tend to outperform their peers.
That was actually a finding from your thesis, was it not?
It's from my thesis. It was both. I looked at the sustainability impacts on operational performance and risk, and for several subtopics of sustainability, so environmental, social, and governance topics, and in particular for the areas that are, so to say, material to a company, there is an impact. So that means that material is essentially another word for relevant. Those environmental, social, or governance topics that are relevant have an impact on financial performance. And I think overall research shows that, especially in periods of economic uncertainty, there might be it's a downside kind of way to protect to the downside risk. So companies that are more sustainable can often be deemed more transparent and trustworthy. And that's what a lot of stakeholders want, especially when times get rough. And overall, I think companies that are doing well on sustainability tend to have a better understanding of their stakeholders, better understanding of the risks involved, and overall kind of risk management is important from a sustainability perspective. Companies that are more diverse and think a little bit broader about sustainability impacts also actually tend to have higher innovation. And of course, there's the topic of resource efficiency. So by increasing efficiency and reducing consumption on irrelevant things, then you can save both money and the environment, and have a positive impact.
Because it's not possible to talk about a company and employees in isolation in a way. Like all these companies you're describing that are doing all of these things, that also means that they probably have employees that are behaving sustainably or contributing to the overall sustainability profile of the company. But what about in companies perhaps that are still early in their sustainability journey? How should employees? Why is it relevant, let's say, to a typical employee in a company?
Yeah. Well, I think sustainability is a journey, and I think it in many cases people tend to think it as binary, so you're either sustainable or you're not. But I think it's really a scale, and both on a personal level and from a business perspective. So I mean, when I started becoming more aware of my personal sustainability impacts, I started somewhere, and then once you start with something, you maybe try a vegan dinner once a week. It's a pretty simple we and so you don't have to be perfect, and that's I think a good starting point, also from a business perspective. So when we started Visma, there wasn't really that much attention to sustainability in particular. And what we did then, we created a basic first version of the sustainability policy that we have today. Started on just identifying what topics do our MDs see as relevant, what topics. We had a big questionnaire sent out to everyone in HR. So just mapped out what's relevant. Going back to the material topics that I also mentioned about in my thesis, that those are topics that have an impact. And that way we started somewhere, we started measuring, and then it's developed slowly from there. So it's really a journey, and I think everyone's contribution is needed. It's not gonna you're never gonna be done with sustainability. Everyone can contribute, both small scale and large scale.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue maybe to talk a bit about Visma more specifically and what our sustainability journey has been. You've been head for 5 years now. How would you say, what has Visma achieved in those 5 years?
I think we've come a huge way. Just as I said, we didn't really have much when we started. We started with the policy. We started measuring our impacts, and from that, we today have a complete organization of sustainability coordinators in each Visma company as a mandatory role for all companies. We have sustainability leads on country or region level helping out these coordinators. And we've actually, based on the data that we have collected over the years, we've been able to set targets that are following best practices and science, best available science. I think that's already a huge achievement in itself. In 24, we were actually able to reduce scope 1 and 2 emissions, so emissions from our direct operations, essentially. And that's something, for me, on a personal level, I think it's finally showing kind of the results of all that went into the foundation, and now seeing that, okay, we're actually able to reduce emissions, and we have sustainability on agendas in the company boards. Visma's management and board are kind of talking about it at a whole other level today than a few years ago. So I think it's just been a great journey. And like I said, it's a journey, and we're definitely not there. There's a lot of things that we can still improve on. But yeah.
Yeah. Can you say a bit more about the targets? So what happens if we achieve the targets? Is that because you said before, sustainability is kind of never over. So what do the targets do? They kind of set a sort of an ideal state that we should be in terms of operating as a company, or?
Yeah. So first of all, since last year or 24, Visma has introduced a sustainability-linked loan, meaning that on selected KPIs that were agreed as part of those agreements, they're based on what we have as targets in our sustainability policy. Each year, if we achieve the annual targets, there's actually an impact on Visma's interest rates. So that's just the way that one can see the markets also reacting to sustainability and highlighting its importance. investors and banks, creditors are kind of pushing it that way. We see a lot of customers asking about sustainability and our achievements as well. So being able to use that as a positive thing and maybe gain new customers, build brand reputation, build trust. Like I mentioned, that's one of the a huge thing for companies that work on sustainability, that they are deemed often more trustworthy, transparent, but also just the efficiency gains. I mean, looking at how we can reduce energy consumption in our offices, there's cost benefits to that as well. So I think overall, working on these topics, it's just, it makes business sense, and I think that's kind of one thing that I like to say is it doesn't really matter what you do on a personal level or what you think about sustainability on a personal level. If you want to commit to 100% and go full vegan and never fly, or you're kind of on that journey. But from a business perspective, it's just part of today's business world. I mean, it makes business sense. Stakeholders are demanding it. Legal demands on Visma, and we're required to report on these topics.
And when we think about Visma, Visma has a very unique structure. We've got, I don't know, nearly 200 subsidiaries or companies within Visma, and then we have Visma Group where we work. What would you say is kind of the role of the individual Visma company when it comes to sustainability versus what Group is doing?
Yeah. So at Group, we essentially, I would say that our role is to support the Visma companies in achieving their sustainability efforts and support them on their sustainability journey. So by starting from the group level, we've been able to establish kind of the overall targets and the direction. But to us, it's really important that we push the responsibility into the organization where it should be. Visma is a very decentralized organization when it comes to decision making, and the Visma companies have a lot of go-to-market freedom and ability to decide for themselves on what's right. And in the end, it's up to the employees in those companies. It's up to the MDs of those companies to actually achieve their targets, set targets in line with Visma's overall targets, because it doesn't really matter what we say on group level if it's just a document that we've created without any implementation. So, I mean, it really needs to be implemented across the organization and not just at the group.
What would you say then is this sort of the path forward, then continuing to sort of try and implement things across the organization? Or where do you see Visma going in the next 5 years in our sustainability efforts, let's say?
Yeah, well, I would say, of course, achieving our set targets, improving our understanding of our impacts. We are a software company. There's a lot of things that software can help with, and I mean, creating more efficient societies. So kind of now we've started with our own sandbox or just our own house, but I think taking it outside to the societies in general and kind of improving societies that way and efficiencies. So that's one thing. Also, just I think getting the understanding of how sustainability goes into all business decisions is something that I would like to see even more. I think traditionally, or traditional CSR has been maybe something that is done on the side. Maybe it has historically been more that you donate to rainforest alliance or something working with a specific project. But that's not really sustainability. I mean, if you want to see the business benefits of sustainability, it needs to be part of the day-to-day operations. So I think that's where we should go.
Yeah. And then I'm also reminded of sort of the you mentioned our role in society, and I think of, I mean, one sort of member of society is our customers. And where is Visma going in the sense of delivering solutions for sustainability to our customers? Because there are companies in Visma that have introduced functionality in software, for example, that allow for taking financial data and calculating emissions based on that, for example. Is there, how big is this future?
I think there is definitely an increasing demand from customers just to have the basics in place, also for small companies. So understanding your basic footprint and your impacts is something that customers expect from us. And understanding our value chains overall, our position in the value chains, our role in the value chain, definitely something that we see as an increase. And this is also largely being pushed by legislation. So we have the CSRD, or Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, legislation that has made a lot of improvements in this reporting has pushed reporting requirements into the value chains within Europe, at least. There are some discussions about changes to that legislation in the coming years, but I still think that we'll see that push, and it's definitely demand in those value chains. One thing that one shouldn't or needs to mention here is the financial side. So it's there's a lot of push and requirements on financial institutions, banks, investors to report on these topics, and they need that basic data from companies to be able to report on their requirements.
Yeah. So now we've kind of talked about where Visma is going with sustainability, and I'm thinking also of all of the new companies joining Visma. There's maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 companies, sometimes more, joining Visma each year, who maybe have not put a big emphasis on sustainability up until joining Visma. How should they think about it, particularly from the standpoint that maybe they haven't, maybe they're a smaller company, they haven't needed to spend a lot of time on it? How should they think about it when joining Visma Group?
Yeah, I think part of being a company in a larger organization like Visma, Visma, we have some certain requirements that we need to fulfill. So it's also they kind of need to report. But I think it's pretty exciting actually that we're able as a company to acquire small companies that maybe haven't worked so much with sustainability and get them up to a level where they know their basic impacts. We have the tools to kind of set them up and have them reporting on basic numbers, and in return they can pull out reports and share with their stakeholders, use that as a hopefully as a competitive advantage as well. So I think that's for a new company, it's maybe a little new, maybe a little scary, but on the other hand, we have a pretty good foundation to support them and get them so that they can make use of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking also about some of the sort of internal communities that we have. One thing in particular is Sustainability Month happening in May. Can you say a bit about the importance of these kinds of community events and knowledge sharing in a company like ours?
Yeah, I think with almost around 200 companies, we definitely have companies that are doing great on different environmental, social, governance topics and areas. And with Sustainability Month, I mean, it's that's just a great opportunity to share some of these success stories. So it's we have the chance to spread best practices and knowledge within our companies, and we're structured quite well, I think, to do that with the way that we're organized with leads on the country or regional level, coordinators in the companies, and these meet frequently, and the idea is also that best practices can be shared in those forums. Sustainability Month is just shows the way, or actually how far we've come, that we're dedicating a whole month to it, and we have a very exciting program this year. So I'm very excited about that.
Great. Well, I think we're up on our time, so I just want to say thank you so much, Robin, for being here today.
Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it'll be really exciting to see how Visma's sustainability profile continues to grow in the coming years. And to all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, like or subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And also, we'd love to hear any feedback, reviews, comments, whatever. Feel free to leave those. We'd love to hear from you. And see you in the next episode.